Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boom Bust channel, Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today we gotta talk about our boy Caleb Williams. What is going on? So I was supposed to do this yesterday, but as I mentioned, Tuesday I was busy, had a lot of things going on, and so I got to, the internet late, and then I saw like all these people talking about Caleb Williams. Now, we've been talked about as a team a lot this year, and I've said as much how I hate how much we've been talked about. And I swear the Bears pop up in the most random of places. I'm telling the most random places that have nothing to do with football. I'll be watching, listening to a podcast, watch some YouTuber I like, or something I see on Facebook, anywhere. Just places have nothing to do with football, and randomly the Bears pop up, and my head goes down. I just feel a little depressed. But Caleb specifically, there's a few people that were talking about the Bears, but there were a lot of people that were critical of Caleb. And then, of course, there's people that were critical of the Bears in defense of Caleb, much like our fan base. I don't know. But anyway, so I was a little surprised that was going on. Like, yeah, we know we lost it, but I'm sure most of you have seen it's the body language and this and that and that. So the first conversation I listened to was on the faculty, and I don't listen to that show, and I don't know why they call it that. But anyway, so I listened to that, and to be honest, that was probably one of the best segments of sports talk that I've listened to. And so a lot of credit to those guys, because I like that dynamic. I don't know if the show's always like that, but I like that conversation. That doesn't mean I necessarily agree with it, but what everybody said, but I do think everybody gave, their points. So this big thing about Caleb and his body language, while some people, again, take the perspective of, oh, he's beat up, he looks like Justin Fields or somebody, blah, blah, blah. This is a symbol of what the Bears did to him. There's apparently a lot of people that are taking it like this is an immature kid. This is a spoiled kid, whatever, brat, I don't know, whatever you want to call him. Because as the quarterback, as the leader of the team, you can't show that type of frustration. Now, is Caleb the first to have that criticism? No. I think for me, very famously, I'm not saying it's the only one, but very famously, Cam Newton got a lot of that criticism around his prime, where and to me, I get it because it's very LeBronish, and I criticize LeBron for this too back in the day, and kind of still. But it's just one of those things where you're going to be somebody that celebrates and go be extra to celebrate when things going great and run around. But then when things are bad, you want to be slumped over. People were criticizing Cam for putting a towel on his head. Like, you want to be dejected and look defeated. So again, not that I necessarily agree with that, but that's the angle that a lot of people come at, and they say that a quarterback as a leader, you can't show a defeated attitude because it impacts the team. That's what people are kind of saying. So when they were saying mature, people could take it a number of ways, but I think they were very clearly saying that he has to mature into being a franchise quarterback. But then they did, just bring up him being coddled throughout his whole time. And then there's a different in players that you can tell have always been the top dog, or always got the top dog treatment and told they were great, and then you get into the NFL and it's a rude awakening. And they had a good conversation about tough coaches and all that. So I mean, yes, you got to acknowledge, especially these days, quarterbacks, they get, of course, special treatment. Everybody knows that, but it does, when you get to the NFL, there's nothing to, sit back on. And to be honest, the only thing you could really lean on was, hey, I'm a top investment, so I'm gonna keep getting chances. And that's not even necessarily true no more. Some of these teams are getting rid of quarterbacks. So you get to the NFL, you got to produce, man. It's not, I mean, I'm sure there's people that's kissing his butt, but after a while, if you don't put up stats, and you're going to get to the bottom real quick. So that was a good discussion. But then watching other people and criticizing Caleb and those things. Now, if you've been listening to me this year or over time, you already know how I feel about Caleb and everything in terms of on the football field. And yeah, so some of this kind of be a repeat. But one of the big issues, I think, not just in terms of evaluating Caleb's play, but a lot of people like to conflate things that are completely different. So, for example, and these are things I've said before, a player's ability, a player's physical ability, a player's technique, their football IQ, their situation, and the results are all 5 completely different things. They interact with each other, but they're not the same thing. And so that's why when people make blanket statements, and I always, criticize it and make fun of it, and they say a player's good or he's bad. This player sucks, this player's elite. That's all people want to do. And I'm like, again, as I always say, a player is not good or bad in a vacuum. It doesn't happen that way. It's not just a simple blanket statement of that. A player could have, their physical ability is something that you can improve. A player's technique is something that you can drastically improve. A player's football IQ is something that you can improve over time. And then the results in the situation, those are different things. So all of those, I think people, again, make terrible analysis with. Again, it's no different than play calling. Oh, it worked, so it was good. No, that, again, the play call, the play execution, the play design, all those are different things. And people just conflate it into one package. So I say all that to say that if you critique, like for me with Caleb, and I'm sure a lot of people, because for whatever reason, Troy Aikman, actually the quarterbacks, Troy Aikman and Kurt Warner, decided to just say what's what this year, while other commentators like to kind of play stupid. He says, you watch the film, and during the plays he showed you, he's like, Caleb's holding the ball too long. There's open people, and Caleb's not making that throw. Something I've said all year, and anybody that has any good tape analysis, we've seen that. And so, but you should be able to say that. I should be able to say Caleb is not seeing the field well enough to make these quick decisions quickly. And you should be able to say that without that equaling, oh, this player sucks, or we should cut this player, or all these other things. It's not, once again, it's not all the same thing. And unfortunately, it sounds logical, but a lot of people don't seem to think like that. They make blanket statements based on one thing. So, and I broke Caleb Williams and his game down many times before. But at the end of the day, right now, he's just having a tougher transition into the NFL. And to be honest, it's no more than that, in my opinion. It really isn't. For whatever reason, I really don't know the reason, but the people that have a vendetta against Eberflus, same way they had against Nagy or anybody else, but the people that had a vendetta against them, they're never going to agree that they're going to make it seem like, oh, something big that Eberflus effed up. And it's just not true. As I've gone through this season, recapping, going through film, and really looking at, you know, the situationals and how it played out. At the end of the day, the biggest thing that was that kind of held us back is not held us back, because people are going to take that wrong, but one of the biggest barriers we had between where we are now in stacking wins in the playoff run was just that we built a team and put out a scheme that assumed Caleb was going to be at a certain level. I'm not saying what level, I'm just saying we assumed Caleb would operate at this level, at level A, and he's been operating at level B. And guess what? That could happen with rookies. There's so many to name, especially that aren't quarterbacks. There's plenty of rookies where it's like, we drafted you with this idea in mind, and through training camp and all that, we realized, okay, that's not the reality. And so that's what every team does. You draft players with certain projections, and sometimes they don't hit those projections. And so this team, as I think everybody knows, by spending a lot of the cap, going after Keenan Allen, stuff like that, I think most people will agree we put together a team with the idea in mind, the projection in mind, that Caleb would play at a competent level to where we would be able to win games. And the fact of the matter is, again, he had a rough transition, and people really want to, take shots at different people for this season. But I really think, in simplest terms, not the only terms, but simplest terms, it boils down to Caleb just had a rough transition into the league. And again, that happens. And instead, and again, I'm not necessarily saying that Eberflus and everything was the answer, but instead of going through any of that controversy and just letting it be what it is, it turned into a wholesale fire, and now we're going to start completely over. And as I said before, most fans talk as if that's an automatic positive, an automatic bump. It is very much not guaranteed. It can be a step backwards, even with a good coach. Like, a good coach could come in and the team could still regress. That doesn't mean you can't move forward after that. But people be so caught in the moment. These owners, these media people, these fans, so caught in the moment, and it just creates, again, this cycle, which is not helping, I would say, because you don't know at the end of the day. Like, people act like if something's good, it's going to stay good. If something's bad, it's going to stay bad. We clearly see in the NFL that could be further from the case. There's going to be ups and downs. And as I said before, I respect franchises that persevere through those things. It's just too many stories about success stories where people don't know that right before the success happened, it was real close to getting shut down, and you never would have saw what that team could do. And so it just, I don't know, man. But either way, that's where we are. So we'll move forward. But I just, people got to take the right lessons from it in terms of on the field. Like, yes, like, just because whatever numbers you see, again, results or wins or whatever, people might see on film in terms of Caleb in one area, that doesn't change the fact that his physical tools are what his physical tools are. I don't expect anybody come in the league after being drafted and look like a completely different athlete for no reason. So the arm talent, the short area quickness, all those things, the arm angles, like, as advertised, he has those despite what's happening now. So then going forward is looking at technique, is looking at football IQ, and just trying to develop those and get it to a place where obviously you want him playing competent football, and so then he can be confident and play confident football, and then hopefully make a jump. But that's what it boils down to. Now, as far as making it bigger than that, like this whole thing as far as him being a bad leader or not mentally tough, because the first few comments I saw on any video had something to do with him painting his nails. Like, people are homophobic, people are all types of just bias and discriminatory, and so they waiting to take those shots that have nothing to do with football. But so I kind of feel like it's in the same vein a little bit, where this idea of we gonna take this non-football example, this subjective example, and say this is evidence that you're not mentally tough. It's a little weird. I don't play the body language game. I really try to avoid that, because I like I said, that's a subjective thing, and I think it's problematic in a lot of ways. Now, sports is a little different than being in an office or something, but generally I feel the same way. I don't like to, I don't condone using that as a valid analysis, a tool to analyze something. So if you feel like, okay, this is showing that you're dejected, defeated, whatever, I don't know, frustrated, then that's going to make the rest of the team, whatever. Is it true, like, people look to the quarterback and all that? Yes. Is it true that there are a lot of people that really rely on body language? Yes, it's true. Is it 100 fact that body language is correct? No, it's not. I think everybody should know that. You can be giving off one thing and that is completely not where your head is. But so we know it's not reliable. But people do look to the quarterback and all that. To me, it boils down to, do you know the player? Because I could say the same thing about Tom Brady and other quarterbacks Tom is probably one of the more famous because his, whole thing, and he was kind of really wild with it. But he wasn't the first. You had John Elway, Troy Aikman, like a lot of those guys in the 80s that were very much, Dan Marino, they were on people. Peyton Manning was on people. Like, so you could say the same thing about them, where, okay, this coming from my quarterback, it's not making me feel confident. It's making me feel like he's mad and frustrated, whatever. You can say the same thing about that. But the thing is, I think with that, people understand, okay, this is coming from this place of a competitor in the moment, because I know him as a person and I know where he's coming from with that. So I respect him enough to be able to cut through, how he's acting on the sidelines. I feel the exact same way with this. Like, if Caleb as a team, so I'm speaking strictly from the players, like, if you're his teammate and you're looking to see how he's feeling, if you actually know Caleb and you know that he's not the type of guy to be defeated or flustered or whatever, if you know him well enough, then that's only when it would matter. Because if you know him well enough and you think he is that type of guy, then yeah, once you see that, it's gonna be like, oh crap, okay, we lost Caleb. But if you know him and again, he's stronger than that, that's just kind of the way he expresses himself, then it's not going to be a big impact. Because yes, people watching TV, people in the booth, people, us fans, we can interpret it one way, but we're not there with him. We don't know him. And so again, to me, it just comes down to who the person actually is and how well the teammates know him. how much that would affect, how much the body language thing would affect. And I never even got it with Cam, and I was a lot younger back then. And so, like I said, today I get it. I get the thought process, but doesn't make it right. I don't get into the body language thing. So that was, again, it was a good convo on the faculty. Some of the other convos were a little silly from other shows, but overall, I don't agree with them, but I understand where they're coming from. I just not ready to say he's immature and all those different things. Now, is it possible? Yes, of course. I said during Hard Knocks, like, learning he's the only child. We already knew he had kind of like this, paved out road to being an NFL player since he was young. So, it's very possible he could be, divish or whatever. He could be anything behind the scenes, but anybody can. And that, again, and that's why it's always like when people try to throw out one thing as a reason a team can't win, it's so many teams that have won in different ways that you can't really throw that out there. So there's been divas on teams and they've still won. So nothing that I'm seeing rises to the level of we need to start talking about his future. Like, to me, it's just part of being a rookie as far as this play. But in terms of like who he is, man, to be honest, that's just chatter. At the end of the day, that's chatter. Because that doesn't matter what we're talking about. It matters what's going on behind the scenes. And look, if he's a trash dude, then to be honest, if he's a trash dude that the players don't like, his body language ain't gonna really matter much anyway. So I think that part is kind of chatter. But yeah, people are disappointed, and of course the hype, is a big part of it too. A lot of people just wait to tear anybody down that's hyped up, and people, unfortunately, people that we can't control, that aren't really part of our Bears fandom, hype people up or hype Caleb up, and yeah, he's now kind of taking that. And I mean, look, and then people want to talk about the other rookies. Okay, like, at the end of the day, Jaden Daniels is not doing anything that I didn't see at LSU, so I'm not shocked. But the rest of these guys, really, it's just Bo Nix, I guess. Who else? Is it just... Oh, Drake May. Yeah, Drake May and Bo Nix. I don't know what was with Bo Nix. I know the bar was kind of low, and for the Broncos, and the Patriots bar is low for the team. But I don't know if it's that or what, but they're not playing bad, but they're not like lighting anything up, and people talk about them like they are dominating the game. It kind of confuses me. But anyway, so that's it for me. Go down to the comment section, let me know what you think, share it around, get the conversation started, thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.